Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome back to 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall, but I'm talking once again with Rob Van Dam, which I'm still surprised he did not trademark this a long time ago. But here we are, Rob. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, dude. It's a great day. Just got in last night and from WrestleCade, which was a good weekend. You know, seeing a bunch of people I haven't seen in a long time and hanging out. And of course, seeing all the fans as well. They count in those people, but busy like always, dude. Got in late last night, and I'm going to be leaving this weekend for Exotica in Washington D.C.
Wow. So you got a lot going on. Now, when you go to WrestleCade or really any Stein, what's the most common question you get asked? Is it like, are you high right now, man? Like, is that the common question you get?
I get that, you know, like maybe like I mean, I get that, but it's not very often. It's
Wow.
You know, maybe like once a day by some silly kids, you know. They have a whole different perspective of being high, you know.
Of course.
But everything is subjective, and that's a whole rabbit hole to go down. But I would think mostly like what's your favorite match? That's the most common question. Yeah.
Wow.
Favorite match. Sometimes what's your favorite wrestling outfit?
Nice. Well, because you had so many. Even recently at Extreme Rules, Seth Rollins like cosplayed as Rob Van Dam. Now, that's gonna be pretty cool because if you look at what Seth Rollins has been doing lately, every time he comes out, he wears like a new fancy, crazier outfit. But then he chooses out of everyone, he wants to dress up like Rob Van Dam. Like, that's gonna feel pretty good.
That's pretty cool. And you know, because they were in Philadelphia and it was some kind of Extreme Rules match, so. So it's cool to be the role model for that whole thing for at least Seth.
Right. Did he like ever contact you before or after or nothing? Just been like, hey man, I'm doing this, or hey, did you see that?
Now I found out on Twitter the next day, just like everybody else, and understood it more as I got a little more info, and then you know. Then some people, of course, are like, dude, they're going to reach out to you. They're going to bring you in. And I'm like, you try to think too much into it, you know?
It's just clothes.
Who knows? You know, I figured it was probably Paul Heyman's idea. So I sent him a fist bump emoji.
Nice. So hopefully he gave you one back or middle finger. I'm not sure which one.
Still owes me that. He still owes me the response to that.
Oh my, wrestling headlines right now. The whole interview is going to be over. It doesn't matter what we say next. It's going to be Paul Heyman, Rob Van Dam don't like each other over an emoji. It's gonna trend. It's gonna trend. I tell you right now. But but you bring it up like, well, Seth Rollins, when they going to reach out to Rob Van Dam, like Royal Rumble is on the horizon, and obviously there's always surprises. There always is. Who's it going to be? I'm guessing everyone reaches out to you, or even I hope, fingers crossed myself, that at one point, you know, the countdown from 10. 90 and suddenly Rob Van Dam walks out. Like the pop in Texas would be huge for you. Don't you? I think this is to happen.
It's happened before when I left way back in 2006 or 7. I guess it was 6. Anyway, but yeah, hey, that would be cool. I got no plans to share with you. All I can say is I'm feeling awesome. And, you know, often I think the answer to the question when people are like, man, how come, you know, so-and-so hasn't contacted you, or why are you not, you know, it's very possible. And if you watch my documentary Icons from WWE, whenever I talk about that, I always say, I think they got my story pretty good. You know, I was really proud of what they told about me not really wanting it enough. And really that is a setback if you want a bunch of hungry people that are willing to prove how hungry they are. And then you got someone that's comfortable, not hungry, cool to be here, you know, could take it or leave it, all good, balance. You don't have anything to hang over my head and hurt me with or use as leverage. You know, I don't know, you know, that's all. That's me.
Because that makes a lot of sense too, because you always heard when, at least right now with Triple H involved, we're in the honeymoon stage of Triple H being the head of the WWE. So there's no critiques. He could do anything. Everyone's going to be like, thumbs up. And I have agreed with most of it, what he's been doing. But the Vince McMahon era, you kept hearing the people walking on eggshells backstage. They don't know when they'll be fired. They always have to be nice. And here you are. You're like, I don't really, I could be here. I couldn't be here. It's nice to be here, but I don't need to be here. And they're probably like, damn it. Like, why won't Rob just like fall in line of being scared?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they caught it in the documentary. They didn't, it was hard for people to understand me, always has been, in and out of the business. Part of not being like the regular sheeple and actually thinking about things and questioning authority and standing on some principles and having integrity that really sets you apart nowadays, and it confuses people.
That's true. Why aren't you on this side? Or why are you not on that side? Now there is no middle. And I recently have seen your Twitter account. Hey, you've been responding to people. People have responded to you. It's been a kind of like a big, I feel like a resurgence of your Twitter, because before you were posting things, but now it's like you're involved with every situation in the entire world, giving your thoughts and opinions. Like, what suddenly made you want to do that? Because it seems like it could go both ways.
Yeah, no, that's just killing time. I had some time at the airport or whatever, and I was hanging in with the conversation. And people always say, "Rob, don't give these idiots your time. Don't let them bring you down." I tag out when I've had enough. When I realize that I'm just talking to a brick wall over and over, and I'm not going to get through. But I also feel like a lot of people benefit from hearing what I have to say, getting a different look at something. I think that I know that it encourages some people to think, and that's really what I inspire to do. I'm a thinker, and I don't understand why people only have such a shallow level of thinking in the status quo. But I guess it's because it's easy, it's convenient. But I'm never really, I think, going to conform to that.
Well, if you want to talk about more Rob Van Dam stuff, you have a YouTube channel as well where you're posting all types of things right now. There's one thing I saw so many videos of your matches and your documentaries and pieces, but I'm curious to know, why hasn't there been a Rob Van Dam current day podcast going through trials and tribulations of pay-per-view matches and so on? So maybe it's development and we don't know, but at the same time, that is something I think fans be drooling over, because as of right now, that seems to be the thing to do: get a podcast, tell your story, or write a book, which one. But why do you think you haven't done one, or maybe you want to do one and it just hasn't felt like the right time?
No, it's the opposite. It's because I don't want to do one.
Yep.
Like a lot of people, I would love to get more people on my YouTube page and subscribers at The Real RVD. And that's the best way to keep up with me. Like today, I'm editing videos that I made at WrestleCade yesterday, and I'm going to upload it tonight. But at the same time, like, when I know that YouTube has like some weird algorithms that you got to learn and all this weird stuff. And I don't think that the answer, and I'm pretty stubborn on this, but at this point, I don't think that the content is going to make the difference. Like, I have people say all the time, why don't you interview people, this and that? But I can show you some people that do that get less views. I can show you people that have videos that aren't that exciting that get thousands and thousands of views. Yeah. And then some of mine, I know I've got some great content that I'm proud of there. All my RVDology episodes, I wish I could, not everyone's going to be a fan of my thinking, of course. They just want to see the moves, and that's fine. But I do put, I have wrestling matches on there as well, and old videos, new videos. But that's the thing, is like right now, I want to learn how to get more out of the work that I have into it right now. I'm not looking to add more of my time and to look for more work. And really, as far as interviewing people, I might have done it before everybody else, way back with RVD Radio. What was that, like 2008 or something? And I did Friends and I Places on RVD TV. I had RVD Live. I did at the Be Real studio, I did a show, and interviewed people. He had some people around to talk, chat, conversation, but I really don't want to now. I'm not saying that I never will, but as far as having that be a format and being obligated to have a new guest every so often, I always tell whenever the subject comes up and it's with somebody that either wants to partner with me or get me on their platform, I've already paid the dues that I'm willing to pay in that. So over and over and over again, I've had people say, okay, we're going to put a good package together of your best stuff and get this and then get money. And then they talk about it so much when the money isn't there, the whole thing becomes about something else. And I've had that happen so much that, you know, I'm so busy too. And my thoughts on it are like, well, if somebody had a guarantee from the bat that they want to pay and do something like that, then maybe that's not on the table. You know, as far as I know, it's not how it works either, but that's the answer.
So I should crumble up my proposal right now for the Rob Van Dam Steve Fall podcast. That's
hey, get us some sponsors from the get-go and not people that we have to prove to, you know, maybe. But it really becomes an obligation. It's so hard for me to have any kind of structure in my regular day, and it's something that I stress about. You know, like I usually know when my next obligation is, whether it's a podcast or whether I have an appointment, or God forbid I actually have to like leave the house and be, you know. But it's like in my mind, it's like, okay, I got 4 hours, you know, so damn, I can't ride my bike or whatever. It's just the way my brain works. Yeah.
No, I unfortunately had to buy like a book to schedule everything I do with interviews with wrestlers, you know, family events, real work, you know, everything involved. I'm a ridiculous time management person. So
but do you mean a book that you write stuff in, or do you mean
I have to write like a schedule. Like I have to be like, at this time I have to do this, at this time
I thought you meant maybe like a self-help book. I was gonna
No, I have 3 children. There's no help. There's only surviving if you can. As Taz
thing
would
is,
say.
I'm always my boss, so lots of times, and I mean way too many times for you to even believe, I fool myself all the time. I always think I'm going to leave the house earlier. I always think I'm going to get to the airport earlier. I always believe it. And lots of times I think, you know what? I'm going to get up tomorrow. I'm going to hit the gym within the first hour. And then I'm going to get this stuff together and go to the post office. But then when it comes down to doing it, it's like, wait, I'm my boss. I don't know how to do
that. You're fired. No, I quit, sir. I quit.
It's like, what would help my Zen better? Because that's my main priority in life, is focusing on keeping my Zen balanced. And any little things that you got to do are disruptive to being comfortable. You can't argue against that. Comfortableness is king.
That's just true.
But you know, you got to be, you have to have a certain level of productivity. So there's that balance.
Well, I think everyone needs to subscribe to your YouTube channel then to see the balance of life and fighting and fighting to do things or to not do things, being your own boss, fighting yourself, rehiring yourself with more money. It's a great business to be your own boss. But I want to talk about Jerry Lynn for 1 second, because ECW is always brought up as like the greatest time ever in the history of wrestling if you were there watching it. Jerry Lynn, I feel like when he went to WWE, didn't get any credit, it felt like. And then as you kept going on, NWA, TNA, and now he's involved with AEW. But I feel like he doesn't get the credit he deserves. Like, it's all, and like you and him had.
I don't want to talk to him, baby.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Someone's trying to get into your house right now.
You didn't hear the doorbell? When I first started wrestling, Jerry, I think it was 98, somewhere around there. He wasn't like supposed to be a main event wrestler. According to the office there, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, he was someone I was rocking at the time, you know what I mean? Like really TV champion and really having these great matches. And then Jerry and I had a match one time in Philly on TV, and I was told, you know, just beat him in like 8 minutes. And not only did I not like to feel like I shorted the fans, you know, I always, especially at that time, I always felt like I had to go, you know, all out and prove that I was, you know, doing my part to make sure that their dollar was well spent and nobody was going home. So I had the ability to do that. And anyway, Sabu and Paul, both were like, you're here, Jerry's down here, don't worry about don't give him too much, boom, boom, boom. I was like, I really think I can have a good match with him. And really, I thought he was athletic, but really he was a friend of a friend. I didn't know him. I just met him. But Scotty Anton was a mutual acquaintance. And also I knew Sabu knew him. And he was known for wrestling with the 1-2-3 Kid or Lightning Kid in Global GWF.
Yeah.
So I remembered from that he was one of the lightweight high flyers, and I was kind of thrown into that whole category. So I think I can work. I think I had a really good match with this guy. So anyway, we went, 20 minutes. At the end of the match, my outfit was ripped, my hair is everywhere, my nose is bleeding, pulling splinters out of my ass. So when I finally beat him, 1, 2, 3, and the crowd just went crazy. Boom, big pop. I felt like I earned that victory, which was fulfilling for me. And I felt like for sure I did the right thing.
Yeah.
And we just had great chemistry. And every time we would wrestle, we seemed to remember how the last match went. So we'd have another counter to it. Like I would, he knew I was gonna go for a high kick, and when I land, throw a low kick, and then he had to jump to it, and then I had a fake, and it was just boom, boom. They brought so much out of each of us that those matches will go down as trendsetters and as matches that I'm very proud to show. Still today, when I wrestle somebody, that I haven't wrestled before, somebody usually that's younger, but most of the wrestlers are. I've outlived pretty much everybody. But when I wrestle these guys, so often they say, "Hey, can we do some of that RVD Jerry Lynn shit?" And my first thought is like, no, we just had we had this unbelievable chemistry that you can't just do.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. Again, Art, I think people need to look at wrestling in a different light sometimes. And that to me is the beginning of it felt so real. Like it felt like everything was happening in front of me that I was like, how the hell are they even keeping up with themselves? It was outstanding. But people bring up Jeff Hardy as chemistry as you as well, maybe because of similar styles, a little high flying, a little dangerous. Who would you think has the greatest chemistry with Rob Van Dam? Is it Jeff Hardy?
For sure, Jeff Hardy, Sabu. I loved wrestling Rey Mysterio for the same reason. It was like we both, going into the match, have a very similar vision of what would be cool. And a lot of times the match is like butting heads, two complete different perspectives, and you come out with what you have. But it's a lot of times you're wrestling somebody that they have their own ideas, their own agenda, their own style, their own moves that some of them you might not want to take. You might, whatever. Some of them might not make sense, so there's a lot going into it. It's always been my least favorite part was when it comes down to doing the business. That's why I hide until right before it's time to go out to the ring, because that way I'm punched in a lot less, and actually on the time card stressing. And that, as I've said, helps keep me balanced for a higher percentage of the day. Not when I get to the building, but, much, much later when I actually check into and start thinking about the match.
I can imagine that being a problem. But who did you not have chemistry with? Because obviously Jeff Hardy's one, Jerry Lynn, Rey Mysterio you brought up, but there had to have been some people you get in the ring with. You're like, oh my God, this is not going to work.
There had to be. Nobody really stands out right now. It's more of just such a different match. I mean, say I'm in the ring with like One Man Gang. Well, that's not going to be the same match that I'm going to have with Rey Mysterio, or someone of that nature. So it's more like that. When I think of not having chemistry, I think that my job has always been to be as compatible with everybody. A wise man, a wrestling promoter in Georgia, Ben Masters, one time, this was during the whole debate. He said, who do you think is better, Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart? Who do you think is the best wrestler in the business? And I think his answer was Bret. And he said, but he goes with consistency. He says, when you can consistently always have good matches, regardless of who you're in there with. And so for me, that just made so much sense that I always went for that and did pretty damn good too. A lot of times the boys would come back and say, "Oh man, this crowd is rough, man. They're not buying anything." And I'm like, I didn't have a problem with them.
Yes.
That was most of my career, which is why I've impacted so many lives of the fans and stuff by standing out. But I do think like way back before I learned to be as compatible, wrestling, two guys, Rip Rogers and Ricky Nelson, both of those guys, and that's 92, 91 and 92, super green. And both of them said the same thing. "Oh, you do a whole bunch of like flips and kicks and stuff like that, huh? Save it till the end. That way it means something." Oh no, I hated that. Both times I was like, oh my God, like my heart sank in my chest. Like how you don't understand. I do different moves. You want to have the same match with me that you would have with Bobby Eaton or anybody. Random name to throw up, but
yeah. I'm like that match happened. I'm not sure.
He was there that night. He was there that night that Rip was like, he wanted me to just do one kick at the end. And then during the match, he had me in the corner. There was some heat because we're in Indiana. He promoted these WCW shows and he's got to put this green kid over, right?
Right. I can imagine that being a problem because you don't want to, the idea of losing your, I guess people say spot all the time, but losing your spot to, a new shiny object, new tool to play with versus me who's tried and true, but yet you want to get a new shiny tool.
And in all honesty, he probably didn't have a spot like that, but he was at least the local guy because he helped book the buildings and stuff and probably didn't want to go down in front of his friends and family, whatever. I mean, there's a lot more of that goes into every night than you even think about,
Oh, I can imagine.
People always want to win and not lose. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Not too often you want to take home an L and leave a W on the table. But this night, and this is an example of why I don't want to save my shit for the end, and I do moves different. He puts me in the corner and does some chop, schmack, really loud, schmack, schmack. Obviously, that must be one of his good moves, and back then, not everybody chopped. Today, everybody chops. Yeah. Oh my God! But anyway, then he grabs me and like spins me around, and says, "Okay, now you do it to me." And I was so young and green, I'm like, I don't even chop, so like. Boom. So I hit him, dud, boom, a little harder, a little smack. After a while, I would have known, put him in there, give him a forearm, kick him in the stomach, and say, fuck you and do your chops. You're not calling me to fucking do your moves. Those are your moves. It takes a while to learn that, though.
So, but everyone hears stories about when you're in the WWE, at least beforehand, a long time ago, where it'd be like, oh, you have 8 matches. So they'd be like, oh, this is the theory of fans. They don't know. No one knows if it's true or not. The theory would be you're the first match. So you can't go out there and have like a 5-star classic, as someone would put it, to let the rest of the card kind of fall off the edge because your match is so good. So were you ever told, I think you need to just hold off? Like, don't do all your moves like in the WWE, because I imagine that would be a problem.
I have a much bigger picture of life now. I'm much wiser all the time. So whenever I look back, I always realize how narrow-minded I just was. I didn't know any better. When you look at that from a competitor's point of view, you feel slighted, you feel held back, you feel like it's politics. But look at it as if the whole thing is a show, right? Look at it as if you're putting on a Circus du show, a circus. Whatever, however you pronounce it.
I don't either. I've gone to like 10 of them. I'm like, Circus du Soleil. That sounds right to my brain.
Cirque du Soleil. So let's say they're traveling and they're in your town, right? And you go to their show and you buy a high price ticket and you're in the crowd. You are going to see a show that starts out and warms you up and then grows and grows. And by the time they're at the end of it, you're going to know like, holy shit, this must be the grand finale. Everybody comes out. They're all over the stage doing all these things. And you leave being like, man, that was a great show overall. It would ruin it if you put all the best shit out first and you bored them for a while. And so I see now that there's reasons for such, you know what I mean? A lot of it is just the time limits, but also as far as control goes, you do need to limit what everyone's going to do. Otherwise, you do have a match where there's a chop battle in 7 out of the 8 matches. That's what it looks like to me when I watch TV. It looks like everybody does the chop, 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 chop. And I'm like, does he not see them coming? Like he just and it's every match, every match, every match, just like everyone sticks their tongue out now.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What is that? Is it are you intimidating somebody, or you got your inner crazy you're tapped into right now? Ooh, because when everybody does it, it doesn't mean anything.
I'd say again, really good point. I think the tongue thing, as we go back to that for a second, is like, yeah, the I'm tough, like or even rock and roll. It seems that a lot of gestures throughout the years could just be all jumbled up into taunts. As a video game, you have taunt 1, taunt 2, taunt 3, taunt 4, and most of the time, I guess the tongue would be one of them. I don't know.
It seems to me like it's an easy go-to for people and that it's overdone. I remember when wrestling on TV was much younger years ago, when like maybe the missing link would stick his tongue out.
Yeah.
Right? Ooh, okay. Maybe Kamal will go, something, beastly, like a little exotic kind of, it was like, ooh, Muda obviously eventually, but when every single person does it, then it's just like, what is that a wrestler thing? Is that a society thing? I mean, because people do it out of wrestling too, when they get their pictures taken. People love to get photos like that, but I don't know. I often get asked, how did I approach being so unique and different and one of a kind? And really, it wasn't about trying really hard to be different. It was just about being myself and not trying to be anybody, and being careful of making sure I don't imitate anybody else and steal their moves and be like them. Because Sabu told me year one, he told me, don't try to take someone else's spot, make your own spot. And don't try to be like someone else, because there's already one of them. And so I was just being myself. And that's what I've always been attracted to. It was things that stood out that looked different. That's why I was inspired by Leaping Lanny Poffo. Even though he just jobbed, he was the guy that was doing high flying head scissors and stuff when nobody else on the WWF show was doing that. And that made me think completely outside the box, where I'm comfortable the whole time.
That's true too, because if you look at the golden era of the WWF, you had Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Why is he special? He jumps off the top rope, and he's different. You have Coco Beware jump off the top rope. The Rockers, that's why these people stuck out, because out of the bunch of just everyone remembers Hulk Hogan, obviously, but then there's a bunch of big men you kind of forget about that are like, oh, I heard of him, but I'm not sure. Like, I know who he is, but a fan who's been around for so long or recently doesn't know. Like, I love King Kong Bundy, but out of the bunch, it's Andre the Giant, not King Kong Bundy. So with you, your style, the way you presented yourself, there was never a bad match for you, because you stuck out. Unlike, what are you? I'm a powerhouse. Like, I couldn't really describe your style. Like, it's not, you do high flying moves, but you don't do all high flying moves, like ground and pound, brawler. Like, how does someone pigeonhole you when it's impossible?
It's because I'm the real deal. I don't get in the ring and then pretend that I'm some character. I mean, obviously there's some exaggeration to it, especially to my ego and extra brutality. But I didn't learn to do a sidekick and a spin kick from imitating other wrestlers that did it. I was a kickboxer, and I learned from kickboxing and martial arts instructors, and I brought those moves into wrestling because that was part of me. That was what I did for fun when I'm showing off at some stupid party, with in high school, backflips and running up a tree and doing a backflip because I saw it on Chop Socky Theater. And but I think the Sheik and Sabu both really had a lot to do with drilling into me you don't steal somebody else's move. You don't steal somebody else's gimmick. And Sheik used to what's the right word? He used to throw shade upon Iron Sheik for being a ripoff of him. He said that he brought it. He said he brought in the curly toed boots, the original Sheik, and that he said he was the first one to wear the headdress and all this. And he said that he trained the Iron Sheik, and that the Iron Sheik took his gimmick, and so he had some heat with him.
Wow, I don't think I heard that story. That because again, if you're trained by him and then you show up just like him, well, that's like hello. Versus, oh, there's similarities. We don't really know each other, but I sort of dress like him. Versus, you were trained by him.
Right. And added detail to that, the when the Sheik trained somebody, because he would lay that claim on so many people in the business. I discovered a lot of times it means like they were dropped off at his mansion and they stayed with them probably for weeks and weeks at a time, and he trained with them, but not that he was like the only original person that brought him into the business, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When he would tell stories while we're eating dinner after training in the ring, and he would talk about he trained Greg Valentine and Abdullah the Butcher, and even had Vince. He said that Vince was a snotty-nosed brat when he had him stay at his house for a while. And so just so you know, because if someone looks up and says no, Iron Sheik was trained by this guy, doesn't matter. You know, he had his hands on everything.
Yeah. Because I was gonna say, like, I've never heard that story before, but maybe you're obviously very closer to him than I would ever be. So, you know, how can I say no? Though you brought up Vince, you're talking about Vince McMahon, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I don't know why it's brought something to my brain. ECW, do-rag, Vince McMahon. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Where were you on that? Because I see a picture randomly lately of you standing over on top, and there's like Vince in his do-rag looking up at you as the ECW champion. What were your thoughts on that?
But I mean, I have a very balanced feeling on that, because I have pros and cons that I feel at the time especially when I was in that competitive state of mind of being in the dressing room and feeling like the writers are just, you know, fucking with me and all, you know, you go all this stuff. When you're right in there, for me, total different state of mind than I have now with this happy time in my life. So at the time, I really looked at it defensively from ECW. You know, I thought he's making a mockery of ECW. I thought he might have even brought ECW back just to destroy it, you know, because he didn't like the fans chanting EC-dub. He took credit for it, said he trained them to chant EC-dub during the shows by putting out the ECW DVD. And then I was like, wow, man, this dude's crazy. Maybe he brought it back just to completely wipe, and they did completely wipe out the extreme theme to it and made it, my refs have to have credibility, Rob. So it was like, you know, just like any other show, except they put way less into it, way less budget, way less advertising. The house shows at that time, you know, were just the old ECW crappy arenas that from the mid '90s. They were redoing those, and you know, we would sometimes film like after SmackDown on the SmackDown night, and there was some kind of weird way that we were getting paid off a split of their gate, which really wasn't fair, but I guess ECW wasn't. Yeah, it's really weird, you know. I mean, in the end, you know, supposedly all the numbers iron out, whatever. But at the same time, one, I thought Vince looked really cool in the do-rag. I did. I loved it. I thought that was cool because he's all buff in the black you know, the black shirt, sweater, shirt, whatever, with the sleeves looked like they were, I don't know what you call that, but sweatsuit shirt.
Yeah.
I thought, and I loved working with him. You know, I had a match. There was a 3 against 1. I don't know if you remember that or not. It's probably where that picture came from.
I taking on Umaga, Shane McMahon, and Vince McMahon. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. I mean, something like that, when I think back, makes me think maybe I was considered in a much higher position than it felt like at the time,
Mm.
because that wouldn't normally be something they would do with like a mid carder or whatever, you know. And sometimes I think of it like that, like, well, that's really cool. I got to work with Vince and Shano in the and Umaga in that moment. So there's that as well.
Well, it's interesting you brought up though the gate information about the fact that if that's true that they were splitting the gate with both sides of brands, ECW and SmackDown, that sounds awful. Now, I also went to those SmackDown tapings where ECW was taped live at 10 o'clock at night. Like, you know, and so I would be there. Unfortunately, a lot of the times 10 o'clock happens and all the kids and families leave because it's 10 o'clock and SmackDown's over. They saw Batista, you know, they saw Fit Finley, whatever. They don't know. Some people don't even know ECW's taped on after. So I was there when the crowds would dip out and there would still be people there, but not as much. So to me, as an ECW wrestler, that must have been a little daunting. Be like, okay, well, we should go on first, not last.
You know, if you add up all these little thoughts like you just mentioned, add it to the fact that we were brought in on WWE's television as heels, and everyone was trained to boo us before they split us off to our own show. And then all the crazy ideas that they wanted to implement that was a daily fight for Paul, you know, all of that stuff, when you add it all up, it does seem like it was maybe brought in to destroy. You know, that's definitely a defendable theory anyway. And when I talk about the stuff they wanted to implement, Paul would tell me, like, this before a sci-fi TV show, Paul would, especially when we just started, Paul would tell me Paul would say they have 9 things they want to put in that are really horrible. We can't let them. I'll get them to fold on 6. We might have a problem with 3 of them. And so that's where there was like a mummy or whatever.
Yeah, zombie and
some of that stuff was the stuff he wasn't able to get cut out because that's their job. They all meet and, you know, and all squabble over the tables about why each person should push what and who they want to push and what for.
Yeah, that ECW, when we just now we're talking about it, a lot of things that come into my brain right now about it, with again the being on after was strange. Yeah, being as heels was strange. And then, you know, having you have on the sci-fi zombies, it was very interesting how it was kind of like perceived, because suddenly it was like, oh, we have our wrestlers, but oh, we need Big Show over here. Like, oh, we need Kurt Angle over here. And those great people, great characters, great names. But like, I've never heard of a fan base being like, Big Show's now on Tuesdays. I'm going to watch Tuesday. Like, there are names obviously on Raw and SmackDown that could have been brought over to actually bring that person's audience with them. But they chose the characters that the ECW hardcore fans clearly were never going to accept a Big Show, or I love Bobby Lashley just as much as well. But he was not the brand. It's like naming your show Girls Gone Wild and you go to watch it. It's about cooking. You'd be like, I'm sorry, what is this? Why is the show named this if it's not going to be this?
Yeah, their agenda was definitely to change it, I think, from the beginning. I think.
And killing it.
Dilute it. Yeah, dissipate what it stands for. And besides having the wrestlers come over and become ECW wrestlers, there was also way too many just like cameos. Like they would have matches with like 2 SmackDown guys wrestling on the ECW show.
Oh yeah. And the Hammerstein Ballroom. Big Show took on Batista inside the Hammerstein Ballroom. That's the night CM Punk makes his ECW debut. Everyone goes crazy for CM Punk. They boo Batista and Big Show out of the building for exactly what you were saying. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like that, when you brought it up, that is one of those, I'm sorry, what's going on? And then more about killing things. We've heard stories over the years of Vince just buying things just to like screw with them. Oh, I'm going to bring in this person and make him wear polka dots. And I'm going to call Lindell Man's servant Virgil, because that's Dusty Rhodes' real name, because we're in a battle right now. Like, these things aren't fake. It just seems that like when you start talking about conspiracies, people think you're crazy. But like when you bring up all these facts over all the years, they're not coincidences. These things are on purpose. Killing ECW, killing that name, killing the chance. I feel like you are actually onto something.
Yeah. And even so, though, seeing the bigger picture like I do now, I'm glad that Vince brought it back, and that I got to show some ECW on WWE's stage where a
Yeah.
lot more people got to see our style, because it was cool for a while before I got busted. I had some great matches with Bob Holly
Oh,
and Sabu, even Big Show. We had a lot of
yeah.
great matches, and
Took on
who else?
test.
Test. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then I was suspended when it was really going downhill, and I couldn't be around to fight for it, because I would always be in Vince's ear trying to give him my thoughts before that. And then while I was suspended, I was saying that I didn't understand why they were polluting the talent pool by having SmackDown guys that were going to remain SmackDown guys just on the show. It didn't make sense to me. I think Matt Hardy was one of them. I think he was on the show, but I don't think he was ECW. And I might be wrong about him, but it seemed like him and Kane had a match, and I was like, what? Like, I don't like, that's going to confuse everybody so much.
Yeah.
And they're already not going to understand what ECW is because of all these changes you're making. And then once Vince decided to add rules to every match, except for one match a night, that's what he's gonna do. One night, one match is gonna be Extreme Rules. All the other ones, we're gonna just be SmackDown.
I'm not even sure people know that NXT actually was the precursor to ECW. One night Vince just walked out and said, ECW is done. And on next week, something new will happen. And then NXT made its debut. Same place, same time, just called NXT. Like, I don't think people even know that, like, ECW was swallowed up by NXT, and that's the history of beginning of NXT, which I could talk to you about ECW forever. But, I think it's time to go home. I have 3 children. They need me, Rob. They need me. Then I know there's gardeners outside trying to get into your house to make sure they get in your backyard. They were like, can I come in? You're like, no, I'm busy. I'm busy. But
Yeah.
Rob Van Dam, thank you so much for talking about ECW, Seth Rollins dressing as you, so many different things. And we now know the true feelings of you and Vince McMahon wearing a do-rag. The world is at peace. We can all go to sleep tonight with that off our shoulders. Rob Van Dam, thanks so much for being here. Oh, what we got here? Oh, yeah. YouTube channel, folks. We got to go to the YouTube channel. Take a picture of that right now. Take a picture. Get on there now.
Does that work over the screen?
It all works. I think it all works. I take pictures. You take a picture of your TV and it works. So why would I take a picture of a computer work? There you go. Click. Right. Folks, thanks for being here. I've been Steve Fall. He's been Rob Van Dam. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.